My son started asking those questions. I said, gee whiz, I'm a fourth generation, and here's my son who's fifth generation asking me things that maybe I should know about.
So I started getting into tattoos. And I wanted to get my family crest, which is a typical one of a lot of Japanese people my age. But my dad didn't know what it was.
And I had no idea. Never asked a question in all my life. And so it was something that I said, well, I guess we have to ask Grandpa. He may know. And of course, Grandpa didn't know either.
I'm not sure why it was so unimportant, I guess, when I was growing up. And it may be because the closer you are to it, the less you want to know about it.
I grew up eating ozoni for New Year's, and sashimi every night, and rice every meal, and I mean I grew up very, very Japanese traditions, Japanese food. My family, they're all fluent in Japanese, all that kind of stuff. So I think I definitely identify with the Japanese culture.
For my kids' generation, they're the ones that if they're going to have any Japanese identity, they're going to have to aggressively choose it. I think in their subconscious, without realizing it, there are a lot of things that are very Japanese that are in them. But they're random things like food practices.
We, I think, had the benefit of being very comfortable with who we were and knowing that because we saw all the generations. But I think that's different now.
My Japanese friends, they didn't speak any Japanese, even though their parents would speak it to their grandparents. No matter where they came from, it seemed like they wanted to be more American. And so maybe that's why I was thinking, that's why my parents were like that. They kind of shed them away from being Japanese or being Filipino or whatever it is. You're American. Don't think about that because you might get ostracized. You're gonna look different.
It was my son, as I mentioned, who actually got me interested in looking back at our family roots. It was he who was interested to ask that question about what's our mon?
Look, what's the point of being Japanese? It's just that we eat sushi and sashimi. No, I think there is a history.
My hope is that they will, at one point in their life, get the aha moment as far as I need to learn more about my past so I can understand how I got here and what influence that's going to have for me, or what kind of influence it has on my life now, and what sort of influence I want it to have on my children.
It just, finding all this out over the years kind of bombarded me, and I became more engrossed in the culture. And I wanted to know more about my family, where they came from, and that started my grandfather, I think, to go look in temples or something in Japan. And sure enough, some years later, he found some information, and I think it's kind of started the ball rolling with my dad and my grandfather and me, and hopefully more generations to come.